Alrighty gamers, how's it going? Daybreaker Rein here, coming at you through Videoscope with another entry into the Oneshot series. Today we're going to be looking at Atari Flashbacks Classics Volume 1 for the PlayStation 4. Now this is also available on Xbox One, but I have the PlayStation 4 version. I was really excited for this version specifically, and I really wanted to hunt it down because it's got Centipede on it, which is like my all-time favorite Atari game. And I thought it kind of almost perfect that I actually do this, because in light of recent news, there has been an announcement that Atari is actually going to be making a new console, something dubbed the Atari box. Now, we don't really know anything about this console. I don't think any information about this console has been released outside from the fact that Atari's obviously been working on this for several years. My thoughts and comments on that, just briefly, is that I was kind of hoping that maybe this is like their response to Hyperkin doing the Retron 77, which the Retron 77 is a 2600 Atari that has HDMI out, which is really cool. I really like Hyperkin's products, and I like the Retron series, so I think that's high time that they actually did something like that. But I think this might be their belated response to that. Also, maybe to like all this stuff, like, because At Games was part of the reason this collection came about. Maybe that's one of the reasons. It could end up being that maybe this Atari box is something like all these Atari consoles put into one as like a plug-in and play, like a best of collection. Which would be really cool, because they not only have, you know, there's the 2600, 5200, 7800, then there's also the Atari Lynx, the handheld, and then the Jaguar. So it'd actually be really cool if they actually go about doing that, but only time will tell. But I think I've rambled enough. Let's actually play some games. So we're gonna kind of just go through a couple of these. Now, the one thing I will say that I was a little disappointed with is the fact that they split that they split some of the more popular games between the two volumes. As you can see, like, this one doesn't have Asteroids. Asteroids is actually on the other compilation, and I think Missile Command and some of the more notable stuff is on the other compilation. But some of the good stuff is on here, like Millipede, Tempest, Centipede, of course. You've got your Gold School Pong. We'll go ahead and start with some Tempest, if you guys don't mind. Okay, we'll just go ahead and start on level 1. Now, I don't know if you guys... Oh, damn, I'm already dead. I don't know how many of you guys... I don't think I have any subs or viewers that have grown up, that grew up with Atari. I certainly didn't. Atari was past my time. But that is not to say that I don't have an appreciation for it, or that I haven't, in some shape or form, played Atari games from the old school days. I actually have a friend whose uncle had his 2600 Atari still. I never owned an Atari. The only Atari, well, I take that back. The only Atari I ever actually owned, aside from the plug-and-play consoles, I had one of the Atari Flashback consoles for a while. I just never used it. But God, man, I'm doing awful at this. Let's try this again. One of the Ataris I had, I did actually at one point have a 7800, a legitimate 7800. The problem with it is that the games are expensive, as far as my knowledge. They're not, like, Atari games are not cheap. Oh my god, I'm doing awful. It's probably because I'm talking. Usually when I talk and I'm not focused, I'm just trying to talk and play, typically I don't do well. But if I lose all my lives this go around, we will move to another game. I had a 7800 at one point that I got at a yard sale, but the unfortunate thing is that it was missing the power unit, and there was no guarantee that the thing even worked. So even if I tracked down the power unit, which the owner of the retro store at the time, the dad was running it, the son's running it now, and I'm really good friends with the son. But the dad had told me that I would be lucky to find the power unit, because the power unit, specifically for that particular model, I don't think there's like any sort of way to get around it. Like, there's no like, you know, quick fix. There's no like, oh, you can just plug in a cell phone adapter kind of thing. It's a very specific format power unit. So he said that they're incredibly rare and that I'd be lucky to find one. So I ended up just, I think I gave it away to him because I wasn't into really the retro collecting of that particular age, and I constantly kick myself for that, because I really shouldn't have just given it away, but he really couldn't give me anything for it considering it was missing the power unit. But you know, I looked at it as, you know, I don't think I'm ever going to get around to finding a power unit for it, and I probably would never be in the market for it. Plus, I don't know, like, I know the 2600, because that's the one that's like, the Atari 2600 is the one that's constantly like emulated and put on collections like this. This is all 2600 stuff. Never have I, you know, I don't know like any games that are on the 7800's library. I think like Xevious is like the only one I know off the top of my head that actually got a 7800 port. But yeah, if you haven't noticed, Millipede is more or less like Centipede, just some stuff is different. Like, instead of fighting centipedes, you're fighting millipedes. Your ship is a little more defined. It's more like a ship, I guess. You shoot arrows instead of lasers. But it is literally quite verbatim the same game. I thought I remember Millipede being different. Like, different enough to where that it wasn't exactly just a Centipede clone. I think I mentioned this before. I don't remember... Oh, God. I don't remember when I might have mentioned this. I'm pretty sure somewhere. I forget everything that I mentioned, but there is this really... God, that's the noise, huh? There's this really awesome Centipede clone that I used to play back on an old Mac computer. Oh, God. Oh, this is bad. Yeah, I don't know how I was going to survive all that crap. There's this really awesome Centipede clone I used to play back when I was a kid. It's a Mac exclusive. I think it's called Ambrosia. I think, or something like Albrosia. God, I can't remember the name specifically, but it's Mac exclusive. The people that made it also made this Asteroids clone called Maelstrom, which is actually really good, and it's actually a free download if you guys ever I think that's maybe when I mentioned it, was when I streamed Maelstrom, because that was like one of my first extra live streams. Not like, I think that was one of my first ones of 2016, I think. I'd have to go back and look. But I want to save Centipede for last, so let's kind of go through here and see what they've got. So they've got the 2600 version of Centipede, which is really no different other than the graphics are radically dumbed down from the arcade version. Much like with most of the 2600 games. And of course the 2600 version of Millipede, as well as Pong Sports. I don't know what Pong Sports is. They actually put all the Sword Quest games in here, and then as well as the 2600 version of Tempest, which I don't even think the 2600 version of Tempest was on any of the plug-in and plays. As far to my recollection, I don't remember the Tempest being on the 2600. But the arcade versions are kind of where it's at, so we'll kind of just stick with the arcade games for the time being. Maybe briefly. Oh, okay. Maybe this is like one of the... Okay, see, I've never actually played the arcade version of this, so I had no idea that, like, a dragon's actually the thing that sends the fireball, which is pretty cool. I didn't know that. I've only ever played the 2600 version of this, because, so before I had the Atari Flashback, I had a... I forget the name, but it was essentially an Atari plug-in and play, like, keychain. It was like a little paddle that you could actually plug into the TV, and that had Warlords on it. I don't remember what else that had on it. Oh, that was lovely. Yeah, it's been so long. I don't actually remember what happened to that. I think I ended up selling it in a yard sale because I eventually got the, I got the Atari Flashback, so I fought as much that I didn't actually need the little plug-in, pocket one. If I recall correctly, I think there's actually a version of this in Crash Bash, like kind of a play on Warlords. It's been a while since I played Crash Bash. That might end up being one of the games we look at somewhere on the one-shot series. Because personally, I think I'd have more fun if I actually had a second player to play that with, and I doubt very seriously I'd be able to make an enjoyable playthrough of it with just myself. Like, those Mario parties, damn, dude. Okay. Alright. Yeah, so some of these, like Lunar Lander, Black Widow, Space Duel, I don't know these, or Liberator. That's almost looking straight up like Tempest. Oh, wait, I think I do remember Liberator. Or maybe not. Press fire to advance. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I don't want to start on level 4. What's the fire button? Okay, there we go. Square's the fire button. Long range scanners detect enemy scouts in your sector. I think I said this before in one of my videos. I've always been dumbfounded by what graphics were like back in the day, like when games very first started. It always blows my mind because it's like you have to look at what graphics are at today. You look at like stuff on the PS4 and Xbox One and PC, just how far things have come. Training lesson 1: concentrate firepower on planet missile bases to easily destroy your enemy. Oh, okay, I didn't know that there were... Oh, damn, they got me. Already game over. Okay, let's try out Black Widow. But yeah, like, you look at what technology has to offer today in terms of just graphics and gameplay and everything else, and it's just dumbfounding because, like, did anyone ever expect that games would ever reach that point back in the day? Like, people who grew up with the Atari 2600, did they ever expect that games would get there? Do I just... Oh, okay. Hey, this one's not so bad. I don't know what a spider's doing collecting money, but... Oh, is it... Oh, do you like the ones that you don't kill that like end up in the little balls? Do you actually like... I'm guessing maybe... You probably like push it towards the center or something. I sort of dig this. You know, it's kind of like games like this that I probably would have really, like, if I played games back in the arcade, I probably would have resonated with games like this. Because I'm a big fan of, like, Contra-style shooting where, like, you control it with the joystick kind of thing. Sort of like Robotron, like the port of Robotron on console. You actually control the firing with the second analog stick. Particularly the right analog stick, mostly. Man, those bigger bugs are kind of a pain in the ass to kill. I don't know what I don't know what you're supposed to do when you grab those, to be perfectly honest. Oh, I actually got into the rankings. How do I? Oh, I like how you can change the color. That's not what I want to do, though. Oh, there we go. You have to use the left stick. That's kind of confusing to me. Because I want to say this is like the first game I actually played on this that uses the left stick. Okay, there we go. Alright, so I think I've rambled enough and everything like that, and you know, I said that we'd save Centipede for last, so we're going to spend this last little bit playing some Centipede. So it's almost like, I wouldn't say Millipede is like a little bit faster than Centipede. Seems like stuff moves a little bit quicker. Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, I had some experience as a kid playing in arcades. We used to have an arcade here where I live in the mall. It was a franchise, I believe, called the Tilt. Because I've seen a couple different the Tilts in various locations. The last one I saw that was still active was it was in Horton Plaza in San Diego. Unfortunately, again, it was one of those instances where I wish I could have just had a flippin' hour just to play all the different games that they had to offer, because they had so many. That was the first time I had actually seen, because I started getting into the House of the Dead series with my friend. You guys have seen him if for those of you who have followed me on my main channel, username Zacton897. That's my friend who is big into House of the Dead. Me and him play the crap out of freaking House of the Dead sometimes. Like when I got my Dreamcast, that was like, he made it a point to get House of the Dead 2, so because he really wanted us to play through House of the Dead 2. And then it was on happenstance. I think it was during like one of a flash sale or something on PlayStation Network. House of the Dead 4 was on sale, and I got it super cheap. So as soon as I got it, I let him know. He came over and we played the shit out of that. But it was in Horton Plaza. That was the very first time I remember seeing an actual arcade cabinet for House of the Dead 4. The last time we actually had a arcade cabinet for House of the Dead 4 here at the movie theater. There's a new movie theater. It's like a 10 screen, 12 screen, something like that. I think it's like a 10 screen. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, no, it's a 10 screen movie theater, and they have like a concession stand / deli, like kind of like little like restaurant area, as well as they have a arcade, and they actually had a House of the Dead 4 arcade cabinet. Unfortunately, the second player's controller didn't work. But the last time I saw, I believe, a fully functional House of the Dead was at Dave & Buster's. The one and only time I have gone to Dave & Buster's. I had an absolute blast going to Dave & Buster's. So much fun. like it's almost kind of like it's funny, I guess, because I missed out on the arcade experience when I was a kid. I really wanted to like, I have this like huge craving to like experience it now. And the unfortunate thing is just like here in America, the arcade scene is just not what it used to be. It's like the older generations like will still go to arcades, like barcades and stuff like that. Um, but like the kids today are just not into the arcade, like the idea of arcades and stuff like that. Unfortunately, it's just a dying scene here. Um, Mainly just because I think the introduction of just like online play and just home consoles and stuff like that, I think that really just has killed the arcade industry, especially when it comes to the younger generations, because they just have the convenience of playing games at their house. They don't actually have to go out and socialize and stuff, like Main Event likes to talk about all the time. Unfortunately, fortunately and unfortunately, I was one of those kids who was convenienced by the home consoles. But hey, I grew up with home consoles that you actually had to physically be present to play for a player. You couldn't just play up to 16, 24 people, 32 people, all on, just one thing, all connected via different systems. It was, you actually had to, sit on the couch, get three of your buddies who all had their own controller, because most of the time we never had working ones, and we'd all play, some GoldenEye or some Turok Rage Wars or the original Smash Bros, stuff like that. Anyways, guys, I'm about over that 20-minute mark, and these particularly I don't like going over too much, so I'm gonna go ahead and end it here. This was a little bit impromptu. I didn't really know what I was gonna do today, but I started thinking about the announcement of the Atari box, so I figured why not? I'll jump on and then play some Atari classics for you guys. I know we didn't get into any of the 2600 games, and I apologize about that, but the arcade stuff is really where it's at for me, personally. I like the 2600 stuff. There are a couple games on the 2600. I mean, hell, I redid Activision Anthology Collection, for the PS2 dungeon. But anyways, guys, so that's going to be it for me today. Thank you all for watching, and as always, this has been Daybreaker Rein in the One Shot series, and I will catch you all in the next one. Take it easy, guys.